Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to use the map method to extract data from an array. So far, we have learned to use pure functions to avoid side effects in a program. Also, we have seen the value in having a function only depend on its input arguments. This is only the beginning. As its name suggests, functional programming is centered around a theory of functions. It would make sense to be able to pass them as arguments to other functions and return a function from another function. Functions are considered first-class objects in JavaScript, which means they can be used like any other objects. They can be saved in variables, stored in an object, or passed as function arguments. Let's start with some simple array functions, which are methods on the array object prototype. In this exercise, we are looking at array.prototype.map, or simply map. The map method iterates over each item in an array and returns a new array containing the result of calling the callback function on each element. It does this without mutating the original array. When the callback is used, it is passed three arguments. The first argument is the current element of being processed. The second is the index of the element, and the third is the array upon which the map method was called. See below for an example using map method on the users array to return a new array containing only the names of the users as elements. For simplicity, the example only uses the first argument of the callback. So here we say users.map, and then we set users equal to user.name. So we're going through each of the users, and we're setting each user. So we're going 1, 2, 3, and that will be delineated by user. And so we're saying the user.name, so it's going to pass in the string. So the names become an array, which are each associated with each of the objects within the array, the name. And so we say user.name, so it comes in, it says we log in John, and then Amy, and then camper cat. Cool. So the watch list array holds objects with information on several movies. Use map on the watch list, so watch list is here. And then we've got a list of a bunch of movies. Dark Knight, Interstellar, Inception. We've got this giant list. To assign a new array of objects with only the title and rating keys to the ratings variable. So here we want to add our code below, and we want to add your code above this line. So we're going to alter this code. And right now we're console logging and we're returning the ratings. So the ratings is an array that's being set here. And then we're saying for each element in watch list, we're adding the watch list at position I title and the rating. Okay, so we're actually getting the result that we want already. They're doing it, but they're not using the map function. So we want the watch list variable should not change. So we're not supposed to mutate the original variable. Your code should not use a for loop. So this was actually passed right now, but this would fail because we have a for loop right here. Your code should use the map method. We're not using the map. And then ratings should equal Inception rating 8.8. So if we run the tests right now, the first and the last will actually pass, but the middle won't. So what we're really just doing now is we're refactoring. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is get rid of this for statement. We don't need that. We don't actually need ratings to be declared here. Let's just declare ratings specifically here. So we're going to say let ratings equal, and then we want to run a map over a map, which is a function which runs on arrays. And so we're going to map, which means we're going to take this array, and then we're going to look at each object within the array individually. And that's how map works. Map runs through each element of the array. So we're going to say watch list dot map, and then we're going to make each individual movie. So we can say movie, and then we're going to pass in an object, and within this object we'll be able to watch list, WATCH, watch list. So now we're returning null, 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 null. But what we need to do with each movie, we want to add a new object to the array. So let's create a new object. So let's call it let filtered array, or refined movie data. And we're going to set this equal to an empty object. And so now if we return the refined movie object, the refined movie data, then we're passing in an object, an empty object, right? But before we return it, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we've got 5 empty arrays, and that corresponds because it's going through its 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movie objects, right? But right now we're just passing in an empty object. So what we want to do is adjust that. So we want to say refined movie data. And let's see, we want there to be a title here. So we're going to say title. And we want the title to be equal to the movie dot title with a capital T. I don't think we can do it that way. No, you can't. Oh, you can. Cool. So we can use either dot notation or bracket notation. You see, we get the same results. Now we've got the title in there, but then we also need the rating, right? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say refined movie data. And we want that to be coming out as a rating. So rating. We're going to set this equal to movie. And here we want to get the IMDb rating. There's another rating in here, which is confusing. Oh yeah, you could do rated. But we don't want that. We want this IMDb rating, I think. So we're going to add that in here. IMDb rating. Okay, so now we're passing in. And I think if we run the test, this will pass. Okay, cool. So let me just go over again what's happening. When we call map, the map function, well, they say up here, iterates over each item in an array and returns a new array containing the results of calling the callback function on each element. So the callback function becomes this one. This is ES6, or so it's hidden. Another way you could write this, I'm pretty sure you could go function movie and then here you would need to say movie. Yeah, and so this is another way to write it, where you're just writing an ES6 with that arrow function, right? So basically this is just a callback function, meaning we're going to do this function to everything in this array. And so we create, with each instance, we create a new refined movie data object, and then we assign the title to that one. And with each movie we've got, on our first element, we're doing it to, this object becomes what we're saying is movie. So this object here becomes movie. So we come down here, we set. Now, one thing that I screwed up with when I was working on this initially was I set this as title initially, and that will fail the test. So that's something you want to watch out to see. If you're not getting it right, it might be because you've got 2 capital titles. So you want a lowercase title here because you're just setting it. This could be anything, right? You're just setting whatever you want to this new key, and then this actually needs to be perfect. This actually needs to be associated with that. So like I said, the movie object is becoming this initial object here. No, it's not all of that, just to here. So movie in our instance on the first element becomes this. And so if we say movie and then with the key title, that's going to say the movie and the title, and that's why it renders inception. And so title and inception became a first key value pair of which assigned to this object. And then we do the same thing, again, lowercase rating, and then we've got to make sure to do the IMDb rating with this next one. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, you can just do this. yeah, if you wanted to use dot notation, you can do this as well. And this works, as far as I know, exactly the same way as bracket notation. And so, yeah, if we run the test, I think they'll still pass. And so that's what happens. And then, so once we've created this new object, if we were to console log the object here, the refined data, we're going to get a ton of different ones, right? Because it's going through, and as we iterate through here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're console logging out each refined movie data. And so when we return the refined movie data, we return it as an element. I'll get rid of this console log now. We return the object that will be passed into the array. So this is the returned object, and this is the returned object, and there's 5 of them. And so that's how this works. Okay, obviously I was just going far more in depth here. This is the simple, fast, this is the answer. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next lesson.